Welcome everybody. Pascal, Bill. Thanks a lot. I think it's really, I saw the movie, I think it was in '86 when it was released, and then I saw it back 10 years when we screened at AB, the Big Fun in the Big Town. But I think that was kind of, that was not, for me it was not really a documentary, but you really took it many steps further. I think back then it was kind of, they went a few days to New York. They tried to find the people who were important back then, but you really, I feel that you really did a lot of research, you really worked very hard. I think it's really a great piece of work you made. I hope a lot of people can see it. Congratulations. Really, I enjoyed it a lot. How much time did it took for you? How long did you work at this?
Well, not continuously, but the first email with this idea of making follow-up is 10 years ago. But I didn't work on this for 10 years straight. But I think the real work on this film started in 2018, and of course we had COVID, so that stopped us like for 2 years because we couldn't go to the States, obviously. So I think it would be 25, so 6 years. But not continuously. I have a daytime job next to this. It's not like I was working on this 24/7.
Yeah, of course. Is it your first movie you make?
Yeah, it's the first movie. I did some music videos and like very short documentaries, but this is the first.
Okay, great, as a debut. I hope a lot of people will see it. Bill, do you think it's quite complete as a look back to 1986? And you know, I think this goes much deeper. It's much more emotion in it. Of course, you see people being 35, 38 years older than they were, much wiser maybe. You see them, the scars, but also the scars inside of them. Do you enjoy it? Do you think it makes a kind of a complete picture of the way those people moved in all those years?
Listen, I think that you saw what, I saw. I only saw this most recent cut 2 days ago. The last version I saw was very different from this. And what's current in this finished version of it is just what you said. There's a depth to it that was missing even in his earlier versions. And the thing that's so admirable to me is the extent to which the main characters in this movie have all grown up. They didn't just age; they've become emotionally so much more mature. I'm thinking there's some life lessons in this movie. And you don't have to be a hip-hop head to see it and, I think feel something and identify with the people in the film.
Yeah, that's a fact. I'm not really a hip-hop person. I don't know. Many of those people I don't know. So for me,
But you felt something.
Yeah, I did indeed. Yeah, and I think many people over here did so. I don't know, Pascal. Back then, 1986, I think we knew White Lines and The Message, maybe Rocksteady Crew. But for me, this was kind of when I saw it, it was kind of the first time I saw that hip-hop was something serious, and you saw the real important players. Is that correct? Because yeah, memory works strange, of course. But is this kind of a correct analysis from me, or I think this changed a lot for well, I'm Flemish. I live in Flanders. There was not much in television back then. We had the BFT, and then we saw a lot of Dutch television. So I think for people in Flanders and in Holland, this was a very important document. The Big Fun in the Big Town.
Yeah, exactly.
Also for you?
Yeah, because it was like, okay, first of all, it was like, this is like a different planet, and it's attracting me. It's like fascinating me, but also it felt very authentic, and that was, I think, what most people who saw it like felt like. Okay, like, because we knew like The Message, and by then we had the Beastie Boys, we had Walk This Way by Run DMC, or that's probably after, right after the film. Do you remember when in '86 that was? I know it's from '86, Walk This Way, but I'm sorry.
It's about the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably it came later over here.
Yeah, but we had the idea, we knew a song, and if you were lucky, you had seen the video.
Yeah.
But that was our idea of hip-hop, and then you saw these people, you saw Dougie Fresh doing the beatbox right in the beginning of the movie. If you watch Big Fun in the Big Town, it's one of the, it's like superhuman, it's like an alien almost, like Like a person can do this. This exists somewhere, and they're dressed like kings, and I mean everything is like extraordinary and like really appealing to a 13, 14-year-old because you want something different from your parents. You don't want. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, but you want your own music. And I wanted something rebellious. I wanted something fresh. I wanted something new that nobody knew, that only I knew, and a few of my friends. So I think that was the appeal to me. And not just for me, but like most of the people my age, so born in the 70s or 80s, like anywhere in between, because it inspired us to the way we approached hip hop. It kind of inspired us in some way.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. Was I gonna ask? I forgot my question, but if there's any questions from the public, Eric has a microphone. Put your hands up, just you can disturb us, no problem. LL Cool J, he's very famous at the moment, because were it bodyguards, the two guys we saw all the time?
Yeah, but
Okay.
not because he's scared or it's just Bill explained to me. It's just a practical thing because when LL Cool J goes in public, people see him and he's like. I mean, he lit up the Christmas tree with Joe Biden. He hosts the Grammys, so he has that status in America. So I guess he's one of the. He's just like I think he's just like a prototype American, or I don't know how you call it.
He's just
everyone knows LL.
He's a big
right?
celebrity right now.
Exactly.
And I think, ideally, you heard DMC talking about, early on in his career, the extent to which he identified with all of his fans, and they identified with him, and he could walk around without bodyguards, and that was a beautiful thing. And I think the ideal for L would be the same thing, except, people look up to him now, and everybody identifies him. He has hosted the Grammy Awards or hosted, he's on national television, year after year, and so he came to New York. I went and had lunch with him at this point, maybe it's 5 years ago or more, and he came to New York, and I invited him up into our apartment, and he sat with me, but he had his bodyguards waiting outside, and then we went down the block to a restaurant that I like, and we went inside, and the bodyguard sat at a table over there. Good, all good. We came out, and there was a crowd of people on the sidewalk. Somehow they'd got the word that LL.
Social media.
Probably. Well, this modern stuff. Anyway, there was a crowd of people on the sidewalk, mostly young women, waiting for him. Now, I don't know if you need a bodyguard to protect you from that, but in any case, he had them. So.
Bill, back then, were you aware that this was something important that you were part of with the Def Jam crew?
Yeah, hell yes, because, I mean, you couldn't, if you paid any attention at all, you could not realize how huge this was. At least, starting with, young kids and young kids of color to begin with, it was gigantic from the very, very beginning. And I always thought of it by contrast to what had happened with punk rock. Whatever punk rock meant in Europe, whatever punk rock meant in England, it had almost no popular impact in America. Almost none. Critically, professional music writers, intellectuals, they loved and they embraced punk rock. Popularly, nothing. The Ramones never had a gold record for sales of 500,000 copies, so they didn't have anything until the late 90s, okay? In the mid-70s, when they first started making their records, they got nothing in terms of popular respect. When the Sugar Hill Gang came out with the first, one of the very first rap records in the fall of 1979, a song called Rapper's Delight. It's 15 minutes long. There's a 3-minute edit. Nobody was going to bother with a 3-minute edit. Okay, if you're on the radio and you play the 3-minute edit, the phone is going to go off the hook, and the jock picks it up, and these kids are screaming at him. They'd already memorized the entire 15-minute record, and you better play the whole record on the radio. Likewise, it charted. It's on an independent label out of New Jersey. It's not a big, giant corporate label. And the record charted in a dozen other countries, most of which didn't speak English. It was just gigantic. Curtis Blow. Raise your hand. Everybody know Curtis Blow? Some people know Kurt. Okay, Kurt put his first record out at Christmas time in 1979. It was called Christmas Rappin', and before the end of the month, he'd been called to London, and he's on Top of the Pops in London. And then I happened to be living in Boston at that time. There was one black radio station in Boston, and Boston being the way it is, it went off the air. It went off the air every night when the sun went down. So that was just a thing. But I'm just here to tell you that Christmas Rapping played on Boston radio into fucking April. And we all know about Christmas music. Come on. Come January 2nd, you don't hear it on the radio anymore. This rap record played until April because the music itself was just so compelling that the appeal of it went by, it transcended the seasonality of it. And, Run DMC, I mean, I could go on and on about this stuff. Run DMC, I'm trying to think, who was it? Was it Schoolie D? Somebody talking about black radio didn't like him.
Marley. Oh no, that was Schoolie.
Yeah, Too Black for Black Radio. So it's not just you could predict perhaps that people who loved rock and roll, which was almost entirely white by that time, American rock and roll became segregated in the 70s in the way that it hadn't been in the 50s and the 60s. It was just retarded. And yet this stuff, what was my point? I was gonna make some kind of point. Just that, it appealed very, very broadly, and it also reintegrated American pop. That's what happened socially. But I know what I was gonna say. So Run DMC comes out, and they're touring, starting in 1983, and they're playing at the bottom of a bill with any number of top funk bands of the day. And if the tour lasts, a month, at the end of the first week, Run DMC are at the top of the bill because people would go to see the show, and then, Run's on first, and these other groups would come on, these older groups who were doing the typical stuff, and the kids would walk the fuck out. And so, the appeal of this stuff was, and likewise, back to black radio. I promise I'm going to finish right now, okay? Back to black radio, okay? There was a division within the black community, and older black folks, including black folks working for black radio, might have come from the hood themselves, but they were much more aspirational and much more kind of crossover-ish. And so to hear rap and to see these rappers, it brought these older black folks back to the hood and back to the street, and that was a shame for them. So the idea that they were going to help these street kids get onto the radio, forget it. It didn't happen. And I'm telling you, with regard to Run DMC early on, and LL and all the rest of it, it didn't make any difference if they were ignored by white radio and ignored by black radio. When we first toured nationally in the fall of 1984, the first Def Jam tour, we played nothing but arenas. We're not playing little nightclubs like the punk rock kids. We're playing 7,000, 10,000, 12,000 seat arenas in the fall of 1984. And then, at the end of the tour, before the year is over, we go to England. And in the spring of '85, we go elsewhere throughout Europe. And all of that is without the typical support from the mainstream music business. So anyway.
Any questions from you guys or girls?
Casper, come on. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, you're next.
Hi.
Hello.
I remember Mike Tyson at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, Tyson.
Tyson,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And you also mentioned LL Cool G's song about Mom said knock you down and stuff. And
Mama said knock you out.
yeah. Do you consider Mike Tyson as the American symbol of the marriage of hip-hop and boxing?
Well, listen, I consider Pascal Garnier a symbol of the marriage of... You know what I mean? I mean, that's really, I mean, it's not just true of hip hop. One of the astonishing things about culture is that, its popularity is almost always, if it's well done, or if there's some kind of magic to it, its popularity will transcend geographical boundaries, ethnic boundaries, racial boundaries. language boundaries over and over and over again. And that was certainly true of hip hop.
And I think also we've talked about this before, Bill, that for in Europe it's different, but in America, like hip hop is American culture. It's not black culture, it's not street culture, it's American culture. Everyone in America knows rap, knows hip hop. It's part of the nation, of the blueprint of the country, of the society. So it's everywhere. And of course what you're saying is, it's a bit like we talked about the fact that Barack Obama probably, or there's a big thesis or an idea that without hip hop, maybe Barack Obama would never have been elected. That hip hop played an important part in that. And I think, of course, Mike Tyson is the same generation as people like Chris Rock, who was at all these concerts. Of course, he was a hip hop fan. It was his age range, his generation, his music. So everything is connected in sports, in culture, in music, in art.
Let me jump in.
Yeah, of course, because you know this better than I do.
Well, I'm just saying, even so, damn it, what was I going to say? Seriously, because there's still limits to the appeal of it, even in America. And I had a good example, and I'm now 73 years old, so I didn't remember. And if I get back to it again, I'll let you know. But broadly speaking, it's just conquered the world. I don't know. It seems to me.
Thank you.
My name is Casper. I'm from Holland, Hilversum. I'm a social worker in a hospital. And I have a question. I have two questions. One question for both of you. For Pascal, my question is there anyone that you really wanted to have in the documentary that you tried to get, what we didn't see in the documentary, and that you didn't get? And for Bill, a more personal question, because I think I recognize in you a very talented man, but also a person who collects a lot of things and holds on to those things. And could you please speak on where your collection, with getting older, where do you want it to go, and why?
Pascal first.
Yeah. And why is it
don't have the
important
room.
that it stays preserved, all the things that you collected?
So of course I wanted like, I come from hip hop, so I wanted the 4 elements. So I have say for the graffiti or the art side of things. I wanted Grandmaster Flash and Dougie Fresh, because then you have the DJing and the beatboxing, because we tend to forget nowadays that the DJ was the beginning of hip hop. But we tried, but I mean, you're not gonna have everyone. Schoolie was very hard to get to. Roxanne Shante took some time as well and some convincing. And
Can I
also,
interrupt for a second? Wasn't Shantae fantastic? Good God.
for an ex-porn star, she was. That's also typical that's the kind of stuff you hope for, stuff like what Roxanne said, or the stuff that happens outside with LL Cool J in his old street. But I wanted Grandmaster Flash, of course, Flash for the DJing part, because it's the basis, and because you couldn't have Jam Master Jay for obvious reasons. And Dougie Fresh, because beatboxing is one of the things in the culture that we tend to forget about and which are still fantastic. But also, if I had more people, then I would either have to cut parts from other people, so I wouldn't have the depth with LL, or I would have to sacrifice other parts, or make a longer movie. And I thought this is okay. It shouldn't be that much longer. I also like myself. I like a movie when you walk outside and you're still a bit hungry. You didn't get everything, and we can still make another. We can make it a second sequel. I mean, maybe if Flash sees this and Dougie Fresh, they want to be part of it. So it doesn't have to end here.
All right. You said my collections. That's what. Okay. It actually, now that you bring it up, I remembered now what I wanted to say before. So I'll talk about the collection of the photos from my gallery that's now at the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. It's part of the Smithsonian's collection. And the one point that Rhea Combs, the curator, did not make when she was showing us the picture of LL and the picture next to it of Lionel Hampton is that she did that very, very deliberately. That was the format of the entire show. There might have been, 50 of those kind of pairings. And the idea was, and I don't even know if she spelled it out in any of the text, but she's a hip-hop-era young woman, a black woman, okay? And she's also a historian and a curator. And the whole reason she did that, I think, is because as much as she loves rap and hip-hop, she understood that in the art world and also with regard to African-American history, this is an African-American museum, there were plenty of folks, older black folks, who probably scratched their head and said to themselves, what the hell does this have to do with our distinguished history going back before slavery in America, right? Why? Why? And over again, she put these pictures side by side to make the point, as she says, she did use this word, that basically that rap and hip-hop are part of the continuum of African-American history. Not just American history, but she, real particularly at an African-American museum, she wanted to make this point to folks visiting an African-American museum, and that was just she first did it in 2016 and 2018, so that's a measure of the extent to which rap and hip-hop are still controversial and haven't been accepted everywhere. So anyway, so there's one collection at the Smithsonian, and that's these photos, and then there's this other fiendish collection that's now at Cornell University, in upstate New York, and that's it's more research oriented. It's newspaper and magazine articles on all of the various artists. It's the press photos taken over the years. It's flyers. It's internal record company documents, biographies I wrote, press releases I wrote, stuff that other folks wrote for other artists. If it fell into my hands and it had to do with an artist I cared about, I held on to it. And I started doing that kind of stuff for my own purposes as a music lover who wanted to continue to educate himself about the stuff and about the artists in particular that he cared about. And it grew from there. So I'd started doing that stuff before I started working at Def Jam. When I began life as a freelance music writer and a critic, and I wanted to be smart enough to write about the artist I was going to see that night at a nightclub. And, but 10 years later, I'm working at Def Jam, and I start to build folders devoted to these artists. And what I discovered, all I did all day was talk to other writers and editors. And, by the time LL Cool J puts out a second album, if you're a writer and you don't know enough about LL's first album, or you want to make reference to the first album and you don't have any of the artifacts at hand, guess what I do? And so, I discovered that other writers and editors and whatnot had an interest in the collection. And that's sort of why it's all ended up at Cornell at this point.
Question here?
Yes. Hello, Mr. Adler and Mr. Garnier, and thank you for the documentary first, and special thanks to Mr. Adler to be present and to come to see us.
My pleasure.
Thank you. There is a scene just about above your apartment when you show your gallery. You're speaking, you show us a poster because you present us through you. We have met C. Adams, but you show some. I didn't get everything with the. It was a poster. It was written Violator.
Oh, Violator, yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned another graphic designer, but I didn't get it. Or you suppose, or you say.
I couldn't. All I said was that I couldn't identify who it.
All right.
So
okay.
If you find out, you'll let me know.
And by the way, we understand through Mr. Adams that there were a big team after him, that he left when he quit after many years the label from Mr. Simons. And do you have eventually some people to mention, some other who are not as big but who were good creators, who made some nice picture for the other album?
You're saying after Say was there? Or
yeah, for example, to have more people
at
to see the work. Sorry? Yeah, at Def Jam, yeah.
You know, I can't tell you who replaced him.
Ah, yeah,
And-
because you were left. You had already.
Well, you know, he left well after I did. I left Def Jam in February of 1990. They stayed until, what did he say, 96? So, you know, I didn't have that kind of knowledge. I wasn't paying that much attention. I mean, you know, certainly Def Jam, you know, through the 90s, that was the second golden age for them. You know, Rick Rubin leaves the label, Russell's doing various other things. You know, it falls to Lior to take over the label and to become the president of the label. And, you know, there's a great, great period, you know, as I said, through the 90s. And, you know, I appreciated the music that was being made then, but I can't tell you, you know, who were the graphic artists. I don't know. You know,
Yep.
that's going to be all online. You can find that out.
Okay, thank you.
In first, I will thank you for the documentary. It was very interesting. I really like to see this because I'm a young generation. Especially, I listen French and Belgian rap music, but in general, I'm a fan of the hip-hop music. It was very interesting to discover this part of the beginning of hip-hop. And I have two questions. What the old generation think about the new generation of rap music. They talk a little bit about this. And I want to know also if you know how the new generation was inspired by the old generation to create their new music.
I don't think you can generalize. People are people. So some older people are going to appreciate what the younger generation is doing. Other people are going to hate it. It has nothing to do with being part of an... I think it's just sometimes you have a generation gap. Some people remain interested genuinely in what younger people are doing. And other people simply don't care. So I don't think there's like an older generation who doesn't like it. I think, and even with the people I talk to, I know that LL is very supportive of younger artists. He's very proud of what he's accomplished and his legacy, but he's also very open and very supportive of younger people coming up in the business. But there's probably other people who don't care or not even following what's happening with younger people. So I don't think there's like one general answer to that question.
I've actually got a question for you. I think you'd be in a better position than either of us to answer this question of contemporary rappers. Which of them are looking back to the first generation of rappers, sampling them, making new records with them? You know, to what extent is that happening right now? Or just writing raps where they name check, you know, LL or whoever? That's a question for you. You.
Do you want to answer?
Do you want 5 minutes to think about it? It's like a battle. Putting you on the spot.
We have last question here. Was you had a question?
It's going further on the question before me a little bit. The stardom of hip hop has gone up so high that it's become the basis for a lot of pop music, and it's the standard for a lot of music now. And in the movie, it's, when they look back on the 80s, they talk a lot about they were just like us. These were people who looked like us. They wore clothes like us. They talked about stuff we were dealing with. And I get the feeling that that's less and less the case with big stars nowadays. That they're not disconnected, but that it's more about themselves and less about the connection between them and the audience. My question was, do you have the same feeling, or yeah?
I'm not knowledgeable enough about the range of rap and hip hop that's being made these days. I think a lot of it is about self-regard and money making and you know, it's stuff I don't care about so very much. But I also think, I mean, you tell me, you know, how bling bling is Kendrick Lamar? He seems to be a kind of a down-to-earth guy, doesn't he? Am I wrong?
Will it be rough tonight at the Super Bowl? Will he bring the roughness in hip hop?
Oh, are you saying, is he going to be there, Kendrick Lamar?
I guess so.
Oh, all right. So you know,
That's how old we
I
are.
guess
We don't even
I
know.
guess we can all judge it. You know, check them out tonight and check it, and you know, see for ourselves. I'm just saying, the range of people making rap records right now is absolutely vast, and people do it in a variety of different styles with a variety of different values, and so you know, some of it is self-involved and. You know, as you said, you know, I don't believe that there's, you know, such a conscious connection between the rapper, this star, and people on the street. But, you know, I think there are any number of rappers, ones that I can't name for you, but who are, in fact, recording, who still, you know, for whom that's still valuable and who still rhyme about that stuff and dress in a kind of an everyday way. You know, when Run DMC comes out, I mean, again, this is absurd, but... You know, the importance of their first album was astonishing. And just the album cover, leave the music aside. The way they dressed, which was just kind of the street styles of Queens, New York at that time, was revolutionary at a time when Michael Jackson was still at his peak. It's 1983, 1984. And Michael Jackson, magnificent artist, but he was... a kind of a genre unto himself. And the way he dressed, he was like the brother from another planet. Very, very fancy, okay? And Run DMC said, no, we're wearing blue jeans and sneakers and, you know, a jacket like this and a baseball hat or a Stetson hat. And the impact of the way they dressed and the connection they made with young people on the basis of that was profound.
Thanks a lot. I think we'll wrap it up over here. Thanks a lot, Bill. Thanks a lot, Pascal. Thanks a lot, Cinema Palace. Just want to say something. Continue to support art house film theaters like this. Very important what they do. Check out their program. Pascal, good luck with the movie.
Thank you.
I hope a lot of people can see it. Bill, thanks for being here also.
Thank you for being here on a sunny day.
Thank you.